tell everybody. Go ahead and tell everybody. I'm the man, I'm the man, I'm the man. Well, you can tell it.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the show. You're listening to the number one shock jock of Blog Talk Radio, Hammer 96.7 BT Radio in Los Angeles, and I am executive producer Ellen Johnson coming to you live from Metairie, Louisiana. And today, Brian and I, we welcome into the studio Chef Scott Mash. Today, Scott's going to be in the studio, and he's going to be here talking about Pov Italian Cooking, his YouTube channel, his website, Simply Good Food TV, the app that hosts his cooking videos along with videos from other cooks. Scott's family describes him as an awesome cook, struggling comedian, super geek, and grouchy technician. While his professional background is in technology and his day job is working as a healthcare regulatory IT consultant, Scott's heart is in the kitchen and his love of cooking Italian food. I'm not a chef and have no professional training. I am a self-taught home cook, and I was learning to cook. I struggled to find a resource that covered the techniques used by seasoned cooks and chefs. I acquired most of my techniques and experience from trial and error, but also from watching tons of videos and reading a lot of cookbooks. After several months of cooking and practicing techniques, he thought perhaps if I were to film when I cook, I might be able to help others who want to learn more than just a recipe. That single thought evolved into Pov Italian Cooking, Italian cuisine and cooking from my point of view. And I started a YouTube channel to share his journey, his experiences, techniques, and screw-ups. And he's a regular guy whose mission is to share recipes with experienced cooks and to teach the inexperienced everything he has learned, and they too can cook mouth-watering, authentic Italian meals made from scratch with fresh ingredients. And if you'd like to come into the studio and talk to Mr. Mash, the number is 319-527-6099. And now, without further ado, the number one shock jock of Blog Talk Radio, Brian the Hammer.
Y'all don't really want it with me.
There you go. Good morning, sweetheart. That's what it sounds like when I walk into Walmart. Good morning, everybody, and thank you for joining us. And I want to thank you guys again. We are number one with women. Number one with the ladies.
They love the hammer. Hey, lady.
Yeah. Hey, lady.
They love the hammer.
Take it away, LMJ.
Good morning, Scott. How are you?
I'm doing great, Ellen. How you doing this morning?
I'm doing good. So, I'm glad that you could come on the show. Did you like the stuff before?
Yeah, the lead-in scared me just a little bit.
Well, anything to make the guest comfortable.
That's right.
So, again, welcome to the show. So, tell us, Scott, what is Pov Cooking?
Well, Pov Cooking, or it's actually Pov Italian Cooking, is really just kind of it's my YouTube channel where I kind of document my journey of learning to cook and to cook well.
Wow. So
yeah, and the POV stands for point of view. When I initially started filming my videos, I was shooting everything with like a GoPro camera mounted on my chest so people could see how I was, how to prepare the food. And it really didn't give folks kind of the view I wanted. So now I kept the point of view name because it's really, from my point of view, how to cook, which is I have no culinary background. So it's, I always tend to feel like what I'm doing is a lot different than what the quote unquote, the real chefs out there are doing.
Well, what do you think makes a chef? I mean, yeah, a lot of these chefs that you see, they've gone to culinary institutes, but I don't think, just because you go to school that makes a chef. What do you think, in your opinion, makes a good chef?
Well, when I talk about myself, I always try to avoid the term chef. I always make sure I always say I'm a home cook. I'm getting to be a very good home cook, but I still consider my home cook. For me, somebody that's a chef is somebody who really does it for a living. They've got a restaurant, they're a private chef. They have that deep knowledge and deep experience in cooking.
Yeah. So, and I'm looking, and why, out of all the cuisines, why did you choose to start cooking Italian food? Are you Italian? Is that your favorite?
No, I have no Italian blood, and I got a good story about that I'll tell you in a little bit. But when I met my now wife, I hated Italian food. Of course, I'm from Ohio, still live in Ohio, and I lived in a very rural part of Ohio where, Italian food was Chef Boyardee, so in my mind, Italian food just wasn't very good. And that didn't go for real well when I met my wife, because she was always wanting to go to an Italian restaurant, and I would try to find a way to change her mind, because we had to drive an hour or 2 hours to get to a good, real good Italian restaurant when you live in the middle of nowhere in Ohio. But, just one day I just went into, and I hate to admit this because it's not really Italian, but I went into Olive Garden and actually enjoyed it. And I won't go near an Olive Garden now.
I love Olive Garden. Olive Garden's good.
It's reheated Italian. All their sauce comes in frozen bags, and they reheat it. So it's it's good reheated Italian, we'll say, but it's not. But at any rate, that's what got me started. And then I became addicted to the Food Network and the cooking shows on there, and just thought, I think I can do that. Because when I was growing up, and when I had kids, I would cook, but I always called myself a functional cook because, I had 3 kids. They were in sports. It was like chicken nuggets or something that was quick, so we could get to the ball field or get to the the basketball game or whatever was going on that night. But when the holidays rolled around, I always cooked Thanksgiving dinner, and I always cooked Christmas dinner. Now, it wasn't always really good and didn't have a lot of flavor, but I always enjoyed that. And so when my kids got a little bit older, and my wife and I were able to go out more, and I just really developed a deep love for that Italian cuisine, and found that Italian cuisine differs by region. When somebody says they love Italian, I look at them and say, well, what Italian do you like? Is it Tuscan? Is it Sicilian? Is it Northern Italian? Because it differs so much. That just kind of like sparked a fire in me, that new love for a new food, to really focus on that and try to learn how to cook Italian the right way.
Well, I mean, since you're focusing, it looks like just primarily on Italian, are you doing all Italian food, or do you have a specific region that you love?
Well, I love the Tuscan food, some of the Southern Italian. Amalfi Coast focuses on a lot of seafood. So, kind of the Tuscan area is my favorite, but pretty much all Italian food, even some of the Sicilian food, which is really a lot fattier, a lot different than Italian. But, if I'm not recording, a new episode for POV, I've started cooking some Mexican food, some Japanese. Just I kind of explore the other regions, but focus primarily on Italian.
Wow. So speaking about your YouTube channel, I mean, tell us about it and why. When you're just learning how to cook, why would you start your own YouTube channel?
Well,
and what made you decide to start it?
Well, really what made me decide to start the YouTube channel was when I was trying to learn to cook. You watch these cooking shows, they don't give a lot of detail. They don't talk a lot about technique, and they'll tell you what seasonings are in a dish, but they don't tell you why those seasonings pair well together and why another seasoning won't work. And it's just it's very time-based. And, a good cook will tell you a recipe has no soul, because if you do everything by the recipe, I don't really think you're learning anything. And so, I was reading recipe books. I was watching YouTube just anything I could get my hands on to learn about a new technique or learn about flavor profiles. And, it just made me think there's got to be other people like me out there that are just getting into cooking, even later in life like myself after 40. And, my paying job, I'm a healthcare IT consultant. All my background's in information technology, computers and whatnot. So the recording and editing and that piece came easy to me. But in my current role, the paying job, I do a lot of talks in front of to conferences and do a lot of presentations. So I'm kind of a teacher in a way in my professional role. And I thought, man, I could just, I'd love to do what I do, but do it where I, as a hobby and what I enjoy. So it kind of brought me to say, you know what, I can record as I learn and share that with folks. And when I'm making the videos, if I screw something up, I don't edit it out because I think it's important for folks to see that, there are times where you spend an hour, preparing something and then you dump it in the trash, and that's okay. Happens all the time.
It's all the time. Yeah. So, it sounds like your YouTube channel is a lot of fun. So.
I have a blast. I really have a lot of fun doing it because, you don't have the restrictions and that, some of the other shows have where they're worried about advertisers or they got to make sure that they, they've got, I don't know, some food companies, sending them some money, so they got to make sure they highlight that product. I don't have that,
Mm-hmm.
Whatever happens.
Yeah.
On the YouTube show, so.
Yeah.
Which is great.
Yeah, it sounds like. Yeah. So, yeah, Brian had, Brian's having a lot of fun with his kitchen retard. But you said that your point of view on buying groceries since you've learned how to cook has changed. How has learning how to cook changed the way that you buy groceries? Why?
Well, I kind of, now I shop around the outside of the store, and really what that means is, down the aisles and down the frozen foods, that's all the prepared foods. They're just so high in sugar and salts, and it's just, I eat that way for most of my life, but now that I cook, I really focus on good fresh vegetables, good fresh meat, and my kids, my family, they absolutely love it. But really, and even farmers markets, I love a good farmers market. Now I live in Columbus, Ohio, and there's some great farmers markets up here. And I'm like a kid in a candy store where, most folks, when, they'll see they'll see a nice car or they'll see a famous person and they're, they got their camera out and they're taking pictures. Well, for me, if I see a nice meat counter, I get my camera out and I take a picture, and really just shopping like that really inspires me because I'll see something that I wasn't even thinking about cooking that weekend. Like, I don't know, a couple of weeks ago, I was in the store and I go over to the meat counter and they got short ribs. I'm like, I would love to have some short ribs. So I just bought them and went home and, made some Chianti braised short ribs. So I focus a lot on fresh food, fresh herbs, fresh seasonings, and just, it's so much healthier. And really cooking has been an experience after I've had a hard day at work. I want to go home and cook because I know that's going to calm me down, and it's just so much fun.
Yeah. Cooking can be a big stress reliever. And
oh yeah.
I love to cook. And I'm like you, I'm addicted to recipes and the Food Network. I was reading, and it says that you are open. You've done a lot of private sessions, cooking sessions, and.
Yeah, I've just started getting asked to do some cooking classes. I've done a few. I've done them as fundraisers for some of the local food pantries. So it's been a lot of fun. Someday I always keep telling my wife that she's one promotion away from me being a kept man. Because I would love to be in a spot where I could really focus full time on cooking. Unfortunately, I'm very risk adverse, and I have 2 kids in college, so that's just not in the cards right now. So on the weekends, if I get a chance to teach a cooking class, or if I have a friend that's going to have some guests over, if I get the opportunity to cook for a group of people, man, I jump on it. I just enjoy it so much. Even if it's, I know I'm not going to make a buck off of it. For me, it's all about the experience, to kind of push myself. If there's a party of 8, can I make a good dinner for 8, 10, 12 people?
Yeah. I mean, have you thought about writing a cookbook or your own cookbook or?
I have, and kind of as I go along and I develop recipes and as I make my videos, I've got a little book I carry around with me everywhere where I jot down my recipes and jot down notes. And at some point that's going to turn into a recipe book. I just want to make sure that I've got everything right and I've got, the following you need to really sell a book and to be successful with it. Again, like I said, I'm real risk adverse. I'm always scared to, take that leap of faith. So it's something that's going to be here in the next few years for sure.
Yeah. Well, Brian, before we get to letting people know where they can find your website and your YouTube channel, Brian says that he wants to ask you a question. Brian?
Okay.
Uh-oh. Brian?
He must still be getting his coffee.
Yes, I was inspired by the chef, and I was making my hot cocoa with artificial marshmallows. Thank you. Now, I do have a couple of questions. First of all, we had a great chef on the show from Louisiana. Remember, Ellen? Were you here or was Diane here? That he was opening up his restaurant, and he was a great chef. And apparently something happened.
Oh, you're talking about Scott Thames. Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, you're talking about Chef Scott Thames. Yeah.
Right. I like the chef. Now, I know you're uncomfortable with the word Chef Scott.
Yep.
Okay, fine. And you're a home cooker, so I'm going to call you Homie.
There we go. That'll work.
Scott, my homie. Scott, I have some questions. I'm going to say a dish, an Italian dish, and let me know if you have your own spin on this particular dish. Okay, these are 5 classic Italian dishes that I'm going to name, and they're great dishes. Everybody loves them, and maybe you have your spin on them. If I went to eat at your eatery.
All right.
And here we go. Once in a while, I take out my girl to a nice restaurant, and sometimes we get the Happy Meal. Thank you. So here we go. Got to give her a little something. Scott, these are 5 classic Italian dishes.
Before you do that,
okay.
What's the Happy Meal? Is it McDonald's Happy Meal, or are you going to a restaurant and getting that Happy Meal?
No, I don't go in. I'm not allowed to. I'm not allowed to eat in public. My girlfriend won't let me. So we usually drive through. I don't know what's wrong with it. Yeah, something about my eatery. All right, here we go. Number 1.
Okay.
Here you go. Chicken Parmesan. Now, there's probably a traditional way to make chicken Parmesan. I'm seeing noodles, and I'm seeing a lot of garlic here, Scott. A lot of garlic.
Oh, yeah. You got to use a lot of garlic. But chicken Parmesan, standard way to do it is, a light breading on the chicken, and then you finish it, you prepare the chicken stovetop and then finish it in the oven with the sauce, cheese, and pasta. I'm not a real big fan. I have to say I'm not a big fan of chicken parm. It's hard to find a good chicken parm that really inspires me because it's a simple dish, but it's one of the standards.
What kind of chicken? I mean, what part of the chicken and what kind of breading do you usually put on it? I mean, an authentic chicken Parmesan, what do they use?
Authentic chicken Parmesan, they use the chicken breast, which is generally not the most flavorful part of the chicken, so it can be hard to inject flavor in it. But if you use a good Italian seasoned breadcrumb, you can get some flavor in it. Really, the place that you put the flavor into that dish is through the sauce. You need a good, pungent garlic sauce to kind of make up for the fact that chicken breast just doesn't really have a lot of flavor.
Right. Is there a way, can you cook a chicken breast to, how can I say, thick or rubbery or whatever? I mean, is there a right way to make sure that that chicken breast is tender? Because it seemed like it'd be very easy to overcook the chicken breast. Is there
incredibly easy to overcook chicken? I will be honest in saying that I still struggle with the proteins, with cooking a great piece of chicken, or I can actually do a great piece of steak. I kind of cheat a little bit when it comes to the proteins. There's a technique called sous vide. It's actually a French method of cooking that uses a water bath and a device that kind of regulates the temperature of the water down to 1/10 of a degree. You vacuum seal your proteins. You let them slow cook in that water to the perfect temperature, and then you finish them on the stove. For me, that way the chicken always comes out and it's always juicy. It's always flavorful. But you can definitely overcook chicken and it becomes a dry piece of useless leather.
Wow. Exactly. I'm not a fan of the breast at all. I'm talking about chicken. Yeah, not a fan.
Yeah, but you know what? That's my favorite part of the chicken. That's the only part of the chicken that I'll eat. I'll eat a leg every once in a while, but most of the time when I eat chicken, it's a chicken breast.
Yeah, but if you take the thigh and you debone the thigh, you can use that in any recipe that calls for chicken breast. And the thigh, I mean, it's still good. It's still chicken, but it's got so much more flavor. The dark meat's just, it's got a little bit of fat in it. And really, let's be honest, fat equals flavor.
Yeah.
All I heard was deboning and dark meat. I'm a fan. I think we're still talking about cooking. Listen, Mr. Potty Mouth. Yeah, Mr. Potty Mouth. All right. And
now, the way to get flavor in your chicken,
people wonder why we haven't been taken off the air yet.
I do make it one dish. One of my favorite dishes to cook is chicken cacciatore, and it needs to simmer for an hour and a half to 2 hours with the chicken in the sauce. So that way it gives all of those flavors from the sauce and all of from the carrot, celery, onion, garlic, time to kind of penetrate down through the chicken. And that's the only way in my mind to make a chicken breast flavorful. It's got to simmer, but I make a mean chicken cacciatore.
Oh, wow.
Do you know when you talk, it's like porn?
Porn? Food porn?
Yeah, we got to debone it. Yeah.
Flavor.
We got to penetrate the breast. That's what we got to do.
Yeah.
I'm a chef.
Fat
All right,
flavor.
Mr. Potty.
Yeah. That's another thing. Fat equals flavor.
Yeah.
That should make for a great conversation next time you go to the grocery store. When you, instead of going down the seasoning aisle, you can go over to the meat aisle now.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, go, ooh.
Yeah, after he goes in there and looks for his humming.
Yeah. What? Oh, with the Frenchies. Well, here's another dish that a lot of people like. It's called spaghetti with pork bolognese. Bolognese.
Oh my gosh! I would
Bolognese. Bolognese.
Oh. Bolognese. Yeah.
Oh. Excuse me. Oh, excuse me. Oh, excuse me.
Well, actually, to be fair,
I
in
could
Bologna,
try going to a restaurant
from the knee.
Yeah.
Trying going into a restaurant. Can I have some spaghetti bolognese?
That's right. Give me an attitude.
Yeah.
So what is the mistake that when most people try to make this dish at home, and what do you have to be careful about when you make this dish? Because it looks like a great dish, but it seems complicated.
I think a lot of people are scared by making their own sauce for bolognese. And, folks will start with a jarred sauce. And for me, that's the biggest mistake you can make. Tomato sauce is one of the easiest things in the world to make. I start with a good canned whole tomato. I start with San Marzano tomatoes. Those are the Italian peeled canned tomatoes as my base. And the reason I like to do it that way is because as a cook, now I get to control the flavors rather than whatever flavors are in that terrible jarred, nasty sauce that's on the shelf at your local grocery store. So I think a lot of folks, they start with a can and then they add their own seasonings, and it becomes a mess. Start with tomato sauce. Start with just tomatoes. Put them through your blender. Cook your sauce. Take the time. For bolognese, buy good meats. Buy grass-fed beef. Buy bison, ground veal, ground lamb. When I make a bolognese or I make a meatball, I use ground bison, ground veal, and ground lamb. That's kind of my 3-meat trifecta. Sometimes I'll put in some ground pork, but good meat, tomato sauce, and build your own flavor.
I use ground turkey a lot.
I've used some turkey in bolognese, but again, you go back to turkey's so low in fat that sometimes it can be dry, or it can be a little bit tough, or it can be sometimes even hard to get flavor in, just because of the way we bred turkeys to be all white meat with big breasts that can barely walk around. So you can definitely make a good bolognese sauce with turkey. It's just you got to kind of be mindful that you may have to use a little bit more seasoning to make up for the lack of fat.
Oh, okay.
Did you mention white meat with big breasts?
Yeah, I went there again, didn't I?
Oh yeah. Here we go. You just can't help yourself, can you, Chef?
I can.
Well, here's 3 out of 5. Eggplant Parmesan with lasagna. Now, this seems like a simple dish.
It is. Actually, eggplant Parmesan, again, that's another dish, folks, I think a lot of cooks try to avoid because, you have to prepare the eggplant separately. But one of my favorite dishes, a lot of folks will say, ooh, that's vegetarian, there's no pasta in it. The way I make my eggplant Parmesan, there's no pasta. It's all eggplant, all homemade sauce, and it's one of my wife's favorites. I know she'll, when I'm making eggplant Parmesan, it's going to be a good night.
Wow. I'm going to try that. And okay, this
you
one
can't get that. You can't get that in a Happy Meal though, so you're going to have to.
Oh, don't be so sure. I'm in California.
Yeah.
You have to put a little
okay.
effort into it, Brian.
Yeah, we have a restaurant called Italian in a Box. I'm sure we can fit it in.
Oh Lord.
Now, this dish to me is very intimidating. I mean, just looking at it, I'm intimidated. It's called toasted rye bread panzanella. Panzanella?
Oh, bread salad. No, bread salad's great. Panzanella, all it is stale bread with some vinaigrette and a few fresh vegetables that are tossed. And it's amazing how that stale bread, it doesn't soak up too much of the vinaigrette. If it does, you've used too much vinaigrette, but it soaks up just enough to kind of soften up and give some good texture to the salad. Incredible dish.
What kind of bread?
Easy to make.
Bread do you use?
Well, really, it's that started panzanella. A lot of the foods I like to cook start as peasant dishes in Italy. It's what the poor folks ate because it was stale bread. You could get stale bread, from any bakery for, pennies for a loaf, and you can really use any bread. I like to use I do a lot of baking now. It's my new hobby is making bread. So anytime that I have some bread that's left over after a few days sitting on the counter, make a great panzanella with it. And it's easy.
Good.
It's a few fresh vegetables, olive oil, balsamic, a few other seasonings, a little bit of salt, a little bit of pepper. Toss it, and you've got a great dish that's going to be good for a couple of days, rather than just throwing out the bread.
before we go to number 5, what's the difference between olive oil and virgin oil and tomato paste and tomato sauce? I always get confused with that.
Well, the difference in olive oils and the olive oils are, there was a scandal a few years ago in Italy about extra virgin versus regular olive oil, or Italian olive oil versus Greek olive oil. Italy is known for having a more peppery olive oil, and folks were importing some Greek olives and mixing them in or whatever. But it created this huge scandal because the European Union placed some protections around olive oil because, they don't, let's face it, what does the European Union have to offer but travel and good food? So they really wanted to protect olive oil. But the difference between extra virgin and regular olive oil is extra virgin olive oil is prepared by a cold press to squeeze the oil out of the olives, where regular olive oil either uses heat or a chemical process to pull out the oil from the olive oil. So it definitely has, the extra virgin olive oils have a more pure, more full flavor than you get out of a standard olive oil.
Yeah, and extra virgin olive oil is highly expensive. I've gone and seen that you can buy a small bottle, at least here in New Orleans. In Metairie, you can go and buy a bottle of extra virgin olive oil. A small bottle might cost maybe between $9 and $12. A large bottle, you're looking at about $25.
Yeah, and you can kick that up another 5 or 10 if you look for a Tuscan olive oil, because it's Tuscan olive oil.
Yeah, I saw that too.
Yeah, it's very peppery.
Yeah, it's very good.
Yes, it is. Absolutely.
Yep.
Now, the difference between tomato sauce and tomato paste is paste has more of the liquid is removed through simmering off. More or less, they cook off a lot more of the water, and paste serves as a thickening agent for other dishes. And it has a more intense flavor. You don't necessarily need to use it as a thickening agent. Sometimes I'll make a dish where I'll use 2 or 3 tablespoons of paste just to kind of inject that tomato flavor into the dish without having a ton of tomato sauce.
Mm-hmm. I made, Brian, my beef stew that I made the other night, I used a small can of tomato paste in my beef stew.
Ooh, that tomato paste in with that beef stock, man, that would just be such a good, rich flavor together. That would pair real well. I'm sure that was great.
Yes, it was.
So what I learned here from this dish is that the extra virgin doesn't like the peccary. So I am learning. I'm learning with the chef here. He speaks my language. Watch out for that peccary.
Your food porn language?
Yeah, I love it. And our last dish here is called brown butter gnocchi. Gnocchi? Brown butter?
Yeah.
Brown butter gnocchi.
Yeah,
gnocchi. Yeah, gnocchi is a kind of a different spin on pasta. It's still considered a pasta, but where it starts with a potato base. You boil some potatoes. Most folks will use like a tomato rice or just mash them up real small, and then you mix it with some flour, and then you boil that in water, kind of like a dumpling.
Yeah.
And so gnocchi in and of itself, it has a little different chew than pasta, a little different taste, but really the flavor around gnocchi comes with what sauce or what you pair it with. And brown butter, so simple to make. You just cook butter until it turns brown, quite honestly. There's a certain technique to it to not let it burn, but the fats in the butter will turn brown, and it's kind of like butter on steroids is really what it tastes like. And you add a little bit of sage to that, a brown butter sage over a gnocchi, incredible. And even a store-bought gnocchi. store-bought gnocchi is by no means bad. I use a lot of store-bought pasta because, it's easy and it lasts forever up in the pantry. But a store-bought gnocchi, a stick of butter, and a couple leaves of sage, you've got one heck of a good side dish.
Wow. Have you thought about learning how to make your own pasta?
Oh, I make my own pasta. Actually, yeah, the first cooking class I ever taught was homemade pasta.
Wow.
Yeah, and it's easy. I mean, flour and eggs and a little bit of olive oil. That's all you need to make homemade pasta.
Yeah, but okay, how do you make the ravioli? And
that takes a little bit. That you start with the difference between ravioli and regular pasta is you just roll the pasta out into a sheet, and then the ravioli, whatever your favorite filling is, whether it's you can take something as simple as a cheese and a few herbs to make a ravioli, to something more complex or more expensive, like a lobster or seafood salad-based ravioli. Yeah, crawfish. There you go. You're at Louisiana. They would definitely use crawfish.
Yep. So, what about ricotta as a filling for?
Oh, ricotta's awesome. Yeah. Ricotta. A lot of folks, they don't even think of it as a cheese, but ricotta is technically a cheese. It comes from, it's made with milk fats. Kind of mimics a smaller curd of cottage cheese, but it's sweeter. Yeah, and actually you can take what's it called? It's called huevo y ravioli, which is it's a ravioli that's about the size of the diameter of a softball. You take a large ravioli sheet, you take a big scoop, like an ice cream scoop full of ricotta, and put a little put that scoop of ricotta in, and then kind of push down in the middle to make like a well. And in that well, you put an egg yolk. And then when you seal your ravioli, you make sure you seal it so that ricotta won't leak out and the egg won't leak out. Boil that ravioli for probably about 3 minutes, and then take that brown butter sauce and the like a brown butter sage sauce that we talked about with the gnocchi earlier. Put that over the ravioli, and that in and of itself can be a great dinner. I mean, because the ricotta, the sweetness of the ricotta pairs really well with the richness from that egg yolk. It can be a very simple dish to make. It can be very difficult. Actually, that was one of the first kind of fail videos that I posted on my YouTube channel. Was me trying to make that ravioli when I really had no business doing it at the time, because I was still pretty new to cooking. But a ricotta in a ravioli is amazing.
Wow. I do have California. We're weird.
Oh, Lord.
No kidding. But I have to bring it up. A lot of people are on diets. I mean, California, year round. Yeah. I mean, I understand on the East Coast, whatever, the winters and everything, but California, body craze. And people are going on diets constantly. And I'm thinking as I'm talking or I'm listening to you, and I love these dishes, but if I'm going on a diet, what do you recommend Italian dishes for a person on a diet? Because when you're on a diet, we're watching our carbs, low sugar, blah, 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 blah. And I don't equate a diet with Italian food. Is there any kind of food you would recommend for people who are on a diet?
Absolutely. Most folks, when they think of Italian food, they immediately think of pasta, which is, not where you want to go if you're on a diet. But something like a lasagna. I make what I call a no-noodle lasagna. I replace the noodles with eggplant, zucchini, and yellow squash. You really don't miss the noodles in that dish. Actually, those three vegetables add more flavor to the dish. Also, there's Tuscan-style chicken and shrimp, real low in calories. But there's Italian cuisine outside of the pasta that's focused on chicken and pork. They use a ton of chicken and pork in Italy that really is very low in calories. another reason I like to make my own sauce is I do a very simple sauce. It's just canned tomatoes, whole tomatoes that I puree, a tiny little bit of olive oil, some either a red onion or shallots, and some garlic, and I avoid the sugar. I don't put any sugar in that sauce. So there's really, if you're doing Weight Watchers, there are no points other than what you would have to give yourself for a tablespoon of olive oil. Mm-hmm. And so you can definitely do Italian food and do it within the constraints of a diet, just, avoiding pasta, just do the pasta once a week. The biggest problem with Italian food when you go to a restaurant, 15 seconds after you sit down in an Italian restaurant, they bring out a loaf of bread. Mm-hmm. And, it's hot out of the oven, so how do you not eat that bread? So.
Right. Right. I agree. I mean, it smells so good. It smells so good.
Yeah, it does.
And it's I love Italian food. There's one more question I want to ask, and I'll give you back to Ellen because Ellen's doing a great interview. Everybody wants things so quickly. Everybody wants things delivered. I mean, we became a lazy society. How do you feel about these delivery services, these meal delivery services that they prepared for you, and then they ship it in a box already made? All you have to do is add a little fixings. Are we getting fresh meals from these delivery food services that they prepare for you and they just deliver it to your home? Is it really fresh and good for us?
The services where you're actually getting the prepared dish, I kind of worry about those because you don't know if they've used sugar to build some of the flavor in it. And, it's probably better than hitting a fast food joint. But the services that provide you the fresh ingredients that you prepare at home and they give you the recipe, those I like a lot better. I've used them from time to time if I know it's going to be a busy week or whatnot, or, heck, I still call the local pizza delivery, once a week, just because, you get busy with life and you don't have time to cook. But some of those services you can definitely get good quality food, but you gotta be careful. I always say if you got a company out there that does the meal delivery and they're $5 cheaper than everybody else, there's a reason. They're cutting corners somewhere,
Wow, that's a good advice. That is good advice.
Yeah.
Wow. Because, I always wondered about that. I said, mine are so expensive, and I don't know who's preparing this. I mean, who knows?
Yeah.
I like to go to places where
No, well, go ahead and finish. No, I was going to say HelloFresh and Blue Apron. They're the ones that send you the food with that's the unprepared food. They send you the fresh ingredients in the box.
And that saves a lot of time because you don't have to go through all the prep. You don't have to run to the grocery store. And I have to say that they do send you fresh stuff. Those vegetables are fresh. The proteins in the box are fresh. And with going that route, if there's a seasoning that they provide that you don't like, let's say you don't like the taste of oregano or you don't like the, whatever it is, you can replace it and you have a little bit more control. And you don't have to waste the time of doing all the prep, doing all the shopping, so you're still saving time. It does take a little extra to cook the food, but, you know what you're putting into your body at that point.
Mm-hmm.
Is there really much of a big difference between when I hear the word organic, natural, these buzzwords versus other things? Is there really a big difference if I go organic on this vegetable or if I just get another vegetable out of the bin? Is there, and is the taste different too? I mean, is it just a big hype?
Sometimes I think it's a big hype because the term organic I don't think means what most people think it means, because even with some organic food now you're allowed to use a certain type of pesticide. So I always jokingly tell my wife that, I want the stuff that's been treated by chemicals because, hell, that's what I ate when I was growing up and I turned out okay.
Right.
Right. And it's cheaper. I hate to say it, but you set an organic lemon next to a regular lemon. The only difference is the organic's 25 cents more per lemon, and there's really no difference. I mean, I'm not going to sit there and swab it with a Q-tip and then run a test to see which chemicals are on it. Just rinse it off.
Right.
Rinse it off.
Wow. I always got confused. We have Diane in the studio, and she used to call me and tell me about her dishes that she's making, and it sounds so good. Diane?
Yes.
Are you here?
Yeah, good morning.
Good morning, sweetheart.
Hey.
Do you have a question? Because you make some great dishes. And she brags about them, and I know they taste good. Her husband, Dave, is the cooker. You get him outside with a grill, and you won't see him for days. I mean, this guy is a master of grill. But,
yeah.
Diane, do you have any questions regarding barbecuing meat or anything like that for our chef?
No questions. I mean, there's one dish, when Brian was asking about, like, dietary stuff in Italian, a good chicken marsala is good.
Oh, yeah, chicken. And that's so, again, another dish where folks think that, you get it in a restaurant, you're like, man, this must take forever to prepare. Chicken marsala might take 20 minutes to cook. You take a nice thin piece of chicken. It only takes, if you pound the chicken down and get it thin, for one, it's going to be much more tender. It takes about 3-4 minutes aside to cook. And then, a little bit of chicken stock, some Marsala wine, some mushrooms. Outstanding dish.
I love
Very,
that.
very easy to
Love
make.
it.
Yeah.
What's
yeah.
that chicken piccata?
Oh, chicken piccata, same thing. It's honestly, there's not a lot of difference between chicken piccata and chicken marsala outside of, the Marsala wine's a very sweet, it's a very intensely flavored wine. With chicken piccata, you more or less, it's chicken stock, white wine, and capers and butter. But same thing, that dish, that chicken marsala and chicken piccata are my go-to dishes through the week when I know I'm getting home late and I don't have a lot of time to cook. I'll go to one of those two because they're quick, packed full of flavor.
Exactly.
Yeah, I tend to save my tomato sauces for the weekend because if you're going to make a good Sunday sauce, which is, it's kind of a Sicilian sauce that you start on the stove in the morning and it kind of simmers all day and you kind of eat that with pasta or you have meatballs in it. And, it's one of those things where when you have family over and everybody kind of has their own schedule when they eat, the tomato sauce-based stuff is great on the weekends.
Making sauce on the weekends?
Yeah.
Because it takes all day and your house smells good.
Oh, it does. It does. A good tomato sauce, like a Sunday sauce or for a good bolognese sauce, that's got to simmer for an hour and a half, 2 hours.
Wow.
And with a Sunday sauce is real simple because it doesn't have a lot of seasonings in it. The seasoning comes primarily from the meats that you simmer in that sauce. And, the longer it simmers, the better it gets.
Yeah, because I put Italian sausage in mine and make my own meatballs.
Yeah, that's the same thing I do. The primary seasoning is that a good spicy Italian sausage, and then I do a pretty mean meatball as well.
Now I'm hungry.
Yeah, I'm hungry too.
But I'm going to give you a quick little tip. Next time you're making your meatballs, I know a lot of folks, pretty much everybody uses egg as a binding agent. If I'm making meatballs, I usually make 2 or 3 pounds of meatballs. I'll only use 1 egg, but to add a little bit of moisture, add a cup of Chianti.
Ooh.
Yeah, right in your sauce, in the meatballs, put Parmesan cheese, a little bit of parsley, some garlic, and Italian seasoned breadcrumbs. It will. Once you make those meatballs, you'll never make them another way. Incredible.
And how much?
Absolutely.
Oh, okay. Cool. I will try that.
Yeah.
Well, I like
but
my
I learned how to cook basically off the Cooking Network too.
Yeah.
And I find myself watching it.
Yeah, and that can be really hard because most of the shows now are cooking competition shows, and you don't get to learn a lot of technique because they're just focusing on can they do it in whatever in an hour or a half hour, however much time they're given. On Sunday morning, Saturday mornings, they still have some really good cooking shows. But again, they kind of assume that you have some level of competence, and they don't really go into why do these seasonings work together. They just say use this seasoning, use this seasoning, basil and oregano, but they don't say why those flavor profiles work together.
Well, that's why I like watching Worst Cooks in America.
Yeah.
Because it's a teaching show.
That's true. Okay. Since we're going, if you have, I hate to plug someone else, but if you have Netflix, watch a show called Nailed It, because I don't do a lot of pastries and baking cakes, but they'll show these wonderful cakes that were made by some pastry artisan, and then they give the 3 contestants like a half an hour to try to make that cake, and it's a train wreck that you just can't look away. And when they unveiled their cake, they got to say nailed it, and it is it's a disaster. It is so good.
I'll have to watch that.
Yeah, I am too. I am going to watch that.
I put the first one on and I couldn't turn away. We watched the entire first season in just like one sitting. So it was incredible.
My favorite cooking show is The Chew. I like to watch The Chew. I like the conversation. I like how they prepare their meal, and they do it really quick. It's simple. I really do like The Chew.
But they're taking that off the air now.
Yeah, I heard they are.
That's sad because actually last week, well, for one, Michael Simon, who's one of the hosts, he's from Ohio.
He's
great restaurants in Cleveland that I've eaten at. My wife and I actually took our first trip to New York City last week, and we were in the audience for The Chew. So we got to see it, live before it ended, and it's one of my favorite shows as well. They have a lot that they have to do in those shows, the different segments and whatnot, but they show some great dishes. They really do.
Yeah, that's my good dish. I'm going to turn it over to Ellen in her fantastic interview because it's her segment, and it's a pleasure talking to you, homie Scott.
It was great talking to you, too.
Mr. Potty Mouth, you and your porn.
No, that's what my husband says. If you lay there in bed on Saturdays and watch the cooking show, if you close your eyes, it is like kind of porn with the way they talk.
It is, isn't it? It is. It is.
Just the words and everything they say.
Yeah, and they're pounding the meat. Uh-oh. Yeah. Bow, bow, chicka, bow, bow. Yeah. You can do it. Little candles and watch The Chew. Ellen, take it away. And homie Scott Chef, it's a pleasure to have you on the show. And you made me hungry, but you enlightened me, especially with the diet here. We're so concerned with our diets, and the first thing people think about, okay, I cannot have Italian, I cannot have Mexican, I cannot have this, I got to count the calories.
Oh, you can.
So
moderation.
Moderation, I guess. And the food is so rich. It is so good. All right, Ellen. I don't want to take your interview, but thank you again. And I return you to Ellen. There you go.
All right. Thanks. It was great talking to you, Brian.
Well, Scott, tell everybody how they can get hold of you if you have a Twitter or Facebook. I know you have a LinkedIn because that's how you and I met.
Yeah. Yeah, on Facebook and Twitter, just search for POV as in point of view, POV Italian. My website's povitaliancooking.com, and my YouTube channel, if you just search for POV Italian Cooking, you'll find all my videos.
Yeah, so that's really great. If you guys want to learn how to cook, if you want to know, Scott's point of view while he's making his authentic Italian recipes, just look for his YouTube channel, and there you go. He'll teach you a lot, maybe something that you didn't know. And you said you have a Twitter too, right? It's POV Italian Cooking.
Yeah, it's just POV Italian on Twitter and Facebook.
Okay, so this, Scott, I'm going to give you the floor. 2 minutes. touch on anything that we didn't get to talk about. If you have anything
Ellen,
coming up.
I don't mean to interrupt. Can I ask one more question before you end this segment?
Yep.
Scott, it's summertime, and I'm thinking about
Yes.
Diane's husband. His name is Dave. Now, Dave, he's a nice guy. But something happens to him when he gets near a grill. He transforms into a mad cook. He's good. He's good, but don't get near.
He's real good.
He's real good, but don't get near his grill. He has pit bulls around it. So, Scott, for the person now that it's summertime and then it's the amateur and he's out there grilling, now the meat that they're grilling, the favorite meat of choice, I'm thinking besides hamburgers and weenies, is pork. Can you give us some kind of advice before you put that slab of ribs on that grill? Is there any kind of health advice you can give us, or how to prepare it so it doesn't overcook and whatever?
Well, if you're doing something like pork, again, pork is one of those meats that can be a little bland. So a good dry rub on your pork. Give time for that dry rub to kind of make its way through the meat. Put the dry rub on it, wrap it in plastic, put it in your refrigerator 4 hours, even overnight. That way when you grill it, it's going to have that good, intense flavor. For something like ribs, you got to make sure it's low and slow. You got to cook it low and slow. Give that fat time to rear out. Baste it often. A little bit of smoke never hurt anybody on a good rib. But there's just something about fire and cooking on the grill that gets the old testosterone going in a guy.
True.
Meat and fire, man. Meat and fire.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it doesn't hurt when they rub our meat
does his
either.
Ribs,
That's right.
When he cooks his ribs, I mean, it's like a 6-hour thing. I mean, he gets up in the morning and they don't come off that grill for like 6 hours.
Yeah,
and he does it with apple wood, and then he sprays it down with apple juice while they're cooking.
The way I do my ribs, I actually bought a smoker last year, and I'll do 2 hours of a straight smoke, and then I will pull the ribs out, and I'll wrap them in foil, but in that foil, I'll put about a cup of white wine, put them back in the smoker for another 2 hours, pull them back out, just slather them with a good barbecue sauce, and then back in the smoker for another 2 hours. So it's kind of like a 2-2-2. So ribs it takes 6 hours at low temperature to make a good rack of ribs.
Yeah. He doesn't sauce
his.
He never puts the sauce on. He puts the sauce on the side. He'll make his own barbecue sauce, and then it's a matter of somebody wants how much sauce they want to put on it.
Yeah, and that's the kind of the Kansas versus Louisiana style of ribs. There's one they stick primarily with a dry rub, and the other kind of goes, in addition to the dry rub, hits it with the sauce while it's cooking.
Right.
I have a weird visual.
I'm sure.
Here it comes.
It's your fault. I can't help it. I can't. I mean, come on. It's the elephant in the room. I'm seeing Diane give Dave a dry rub, and then Dave with the smoker. Dave takes a hit. Okay, we're going to smoke it. Dave with the smoker, and then he goes low and slow. I mean, I can't get that out of my head. Where's the meat? Oh, Mr. Potty Mouth, you did it again.
Hey, I've set him up for you all day, Brian. You boning your chicken and dry.
You sure did.
Brian's going to have a field day all day.
Yeah, he is.
I'll buy the book. You sold me.
Talked about rubbing meat, pounding meat. Yeah. He's
I know.
It's like I'm lobbing softballs to you.
You have. Thank you, sir, so much.
Yep.
Oh. Okay. So we're going to give Chef Homie Scott about 2 minutes. And if we didn't go over the talking points that you wanted to go over, please put them in your 2-minute pitch and let everybody know how great you are, where they can get you, where they can sign up, your book. And it's all yours, Chef Homie Scott.
First, I just want to thank you guys for giving me the opportunity to be on your show. It's absolutely been a blast. But just really, for the folks that are out there listening, just check out my YouTube channel, POV Italian Cooking. Subscribe so that way anytime I post a video, and I'm trying to post 1-2 videos a week, one that's kind of a cooking demonstration, and then one that's something about food, whether it's just, focusing on one ingredient or whatever. But just subscribe to my YouTube channel, hook up with me on social media, send me an email at povitalian@gmail.com if you've got any questions, suggestions for videos, or just feedback on any of the content I got out there. I'd really appreciate it.
Yeah.
But you guys hit all the points I wanted to talk about, and again, it's just a great opportunity. I really appreciate it.
There's one point that we didn't talk about, and that is your app. Tell us about your app.
Thank you. Yeah, absolutely. I was contacted, 3 or 4 months ago. Out of the blue, I get an email from the UK. There's an app called Simply Good Food TV that you can download on Android and on iPhones. And it was started by Chef Peter Sidwell. Again, he's UK-based. But I'm the first US-based cook that they highlight now on the Simply Good Food TV network or the app network. But go to the Google Play Store, go to the App Store on your iPhone, search for Simply Good Food TV. Great chefs. Peter Sidwell's an outstanding UK-based chef. I've had the opportunity to exchange emails and talk with him. Real supportive of anyone who's learning to cook like myself. Just outstanding group of folks to work with, and I'm really appreciative that they provide me the opportunity to share my content, my videos through their app.
Wow.
Nice.
Yep, it does. So, again, Chef Scott Mash, and his POV Italian Cooking. You can go to his website, povitaliancooking.com, and find him on Twitter and Facebook and LinkedIn. Talk to him. If you have questions, I'm sure he'll answer them.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Absolutely. I love to get emails from folks just so that way there's somebody out there in the internet ether that's listening.
Well, you know what? Thank you, Scott, for coming on. And again, we will be keeping in touch. Because we're on LinkedIn together. Brian, do you have any last questions before we let Scott go?
No, great interview. I love Chef Scott. I really do. I'm going to go to the YouTube channel. He's very informative, and he's an expert. I like that.
I was checking out his website. I mean, his website looks really good. It looks really good.
Oh, I love it. I really love it. Thank you again, Chef Scott. There you go. Get him on Twitter and Lincoln. He's there in Lincoln, and maybe he'll give you a bone.
Yep.
Maybe give you a bone. Yeah, he did it. He did it, Mr. Potty Mouth. Thank you. Love to the family. Scott, thank you so much for coming in, and we will see you soon. And when we come, everybody support Chef Scott and support us, and we'll be right back with more information about what's going on in this world. All right, you're listening to Hammer 96.7 with Ellen Johnson. We'll see you guys in about 2 minutes. Thank you so much, Mr. Scott. We'll see you.
Thank you, guys.